God is love. That's really the thing that caught my attention the first time I heard it. That really made me wonder, okay, I can comprehend when it says God loves me. The little song in Sunday school said, Jesus loves me, this I know. Okay, so we probably got somewhat of an understanding and handle on that. But when you come to this description of God, God is love. What does that entail? What's involved with that? Well, to think about love, the word is great. It's a word that we use. Maybe some of you use it several times in any given day. I actually watched a movie last night, and it was a very interesting one, but it just said, it said loved was used 255 times in this conversation. And so it was they were keeping track of it again. So it's used in many ways, isn't it? It really is. We use love to describe ideas. We say we love beauty. We love countries. We love our hometown. We love pets. We love colors. We love flavors of, especially ice cream. Chocolate's my favorite. We love songs. We love poems. We love books. We love many things. And we use the same word to express kinds of different emotions and feelings that we have. And what we do is we really, when I use love in a conversation with someone, I really am trusting them to do something. And what I'm trusting them to do is to know what I'm meaning when I say it. I mean, if I say that I love the beautiful day, and if I say I love my wife, does that mean the same thing? I don't think so. I hope not. She hopes not. I hope not either. No, I mean, I love the beautiful day. I love, and as I mentioned to you, I love anything chocolate. You put anything chocolate in my, actually I got my wife some tiramisu. Those of you who know what tiramisu is, and she finally ate it last night. Now, I think she said, I think that was supposed to be like 5 helpings, 5 portions, 5 servings. She said, I almost ate all of it. She left a little bit at the bottom for me to clean up the bottom of the bowl, so to speak. No, we love many things, but we count on people to really filter it through their understanding of what love is, to understand what we're trying to say. And then to confuse things even more about love, we use it in terms of expressions that are common and used. For example, we fall into love, right? Or love puts the stars in our eyes. Or love causes our hearts to skip a beat. Or love makes the, what? World go around. Really, I thought it was more the force of gravity and the physical forces of nature that made the world go around. I didn't know it was love that made it spin like it did on its axis and that. So you see what I'm saying? It's really, and then to add to that, we come up and we share something called Christian love. What does that mean? What's Christian love all about? Well, the Bible tells us, as we just said, God is love. It tells me that I'm to love the Lord my God, right? With all my heart, my soul, my mind, my strength. It tells me to love myself. It also tells me to love my neighbor and even to love my enemies. So the question is, do you love your enemies like you do your family members? It's a word. It's a command. Jesus said it. Love your enemies as how you love yourself. So I don't know about you, but this whole thing can get really confusing. And I'll tell you why it can be confusing, is because our understanding of languages, and especially, I have to say this, the English language is one of the most difficult languages to learn for anyone who does not know it. Why? Because this exact thing. You see, other languages use various different terms for the kind of love they're trying to express. So when they say it, they go, there's no question about what you mean. But when we say it, I don't know, I'm not sure. Well, let's go to the Bible, because we could bounce all over the universe on that one. A linguistic person would love to have these conversations. We're not into linguistics linguistics so much and philosophy and theory and all that stuff. We're here to understand what God is trying to communicate to us. And I hope that's the end of my message, is that when I finish, you'll say, okay, now probably not maybe 100%, but I got a better concept of what the Bible means, what John meant when he said God is love. There's three various Greek words that are used to refer to different kinds of love in the Bible. The first word is called, the first Greek word is eros, E-R-O-S. Now, if that word doesn't sound familiar, how about, have you ever heard the term erotic? Okay, well, they're connected, very, very keenly connected. And so eros basically means the kind of love, it's a physical attraction, sexual attraction. The reality is, without going too far on this one, you and I are here today because of erotic love. I'm really thankful. I'm thankful that my mom and my dad loved each other in an erotic way so that I'm here. And you're going to go, Pastor, that's far enough. Yeah, I've gone far enough. That's it. But I think that's the kind of love that Eros is talking about. And here's the thing about Eros. As much as it's a physical attraction, sexual love, it's a gift from God, isn't it? It is a gift from God. Because didn't God say it at in the book of Genesis when he talks about creation? He made the male and the female. And he said he looked at all he had made and it was what? Good. The word is good. And he said, then be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. Folks, the basis of that is eros, erotic love. But it has its limitations too. It's only to be shared by two people, a husband and wife, committed to stay together. And as pure as holy as it is, it has its weakness, because here's the thing about eros. Eros love is at its root selfish. Selfish. It depends upon emotions and feelings, and it's always looking for something that will satisfy its own desires. Again, it's not a bad thing. God gave it to us. It's very integral in continuing the line of the family line, you know. I now have a granddaughter who's almost 2 years old. She's heading toward 2. And she is a result of the eros love of her mom and dad, just like you and I as well were the result of that. But that's eros love, and that, like I said, has its limitations, and it's really pretty much a self-serving. It says, this is how I feel, this is what I need, this is what I want, who will give it to me? That's basically the basis of that. Good, but it's limited. And the second kind of love that the Bible tells us about is phileo, P-H-I-L-E-O. If you wonder about phileo, there's a city in this country that's known as the city of brotherly, sisterly love. What is that city? Philadelphia. Could there be a connection between phileo and Philadelphia? I think so. So we have that connection. Brotherly love, companionship, friendship. It's the kind of boy meets girl for the first time. And not in a bar, folks. We're talking about much younger boy meets girl. Remember Norman Rockwell? Those of you who are old enough, I know I'm dating myself here, but Norman Rockwell was an incredible painter and would paint very incredible, interesting scenes of various things in history and things going on. And one of the classic pictures that he paints is a picture of a young boy and a young girl that basically meet at a soda shop, at a drugstore. And they order one soda, and they have 2 straws. And they go ahead and sit down at the counter, kind of face each other, put their straws in, they start sipping away. A very innocent scene. A scene of phileo, just friendship, just a wonderful connection with another human being, maybe for the first time or fairly new. And it's a scene that maybe you could describe it with this little description. A boy and a girl are sitting together in the booth, sipping out on the same soda. Looking into each other's eyes, he says to her, "I like you." And she responds, "I like you too." And he says, "I like you more than I said." And she responds, "I like you more than I said too." And he says, "I love you." And she says, "What?" He says, "Nothing." She says, "Oh, no, go ahead and say it again." "Well, all right," he says, "but don't laugh. I love you." "I love you too," she responds. Finally, there comes a day when he asked her, "Will you marry me?" "Yes," she answers, and they are married and live happily ever after for a while. And one day he looks up at her from behind his morning newspaper and says, "I'm tired of burnt toast." And she says, "You ought to be in Sudan. People are starving to death in Sudan. There are some here and there who would love to even have a piece of burnt toast." And he says, some of the meals I've been having lately, maybe I would be better off in Sudan." And she says, "If you love Sudan so much, why don't you just move there?" And he says, "I think I will." And he walks out and the door slams behind him. Now I know that was a make-believe scene that started innocently with phileo. And it moved through. They got married and lived happily for a while. And so one would say, wait a minute, maybe was there really any love between them in the first place, since he walked out and left her and didn't come back? No, there was love. Chances are, though, it was eros. Or chances are it was phileo. And the thing about phileo, it has its limitations as well, because phileo is more of a surfacey, kind of a casual, lighthearted love that basically says something like this: "I will love you as long as you love me." Right? That you're nice to me, you meet my needs. "I will love you as long as the waves are smooth. I will love you as long as things are going all right in my life. I will love you as long as I'm getting what I want out of our relationship." But that's not the depth, and I know most of you know this who are married, that's needed in marriage. Phileo love is a gift from God, but it is never enough. Which leads us to the heart of the message today. And that's the third kind of love that the Bible talks about. And I know some of you have heard this, agape. A-G-A-P-E. 1 John 4 says, love comes from who? God. And that God is love. God is agape. And it's a different kind of love from the other two, because here's the thing about this love. It's totally unselfish. I mean, totally unselfish. It's more concerned about making the object of love feel love and feel loved than making the lover feel loved. The lover, you see, with agape is willing to sacrifice for the other person and to do whatever is necessary for that person to know and to feel and be convinced that they love them, that they are loved. And that's what God did. That's simply what God did. He looked down from heaven and he saw the predicament that we were all in as sinful people. He didn't consider how comfortable it was in heaven. He didn't consider his own situation, but he willingly sacrificed himself and came to earth and lived with us. He breathed our air. He experienced our life. Somebody referred to it this way: it's the kind of love that reaches down and picks up clay and anoints blind eyes. It's a kind of love that stands beside the grave of a loved one and weeps with those who are weeping, that blesses children, that does not regard itself, but unselfishly goes to the cross and sheds its blood and gives his life so there might be hope for those of us who are hopeless without it. That is agape love. See, if God loved us with eros, or if God loved us with phileo love, he would have packed his bags a whole long time ago and straight back to heaven and said, I had enough of this. I'm finished. I'm done. They're hopeless. Have you ever felt that way about someone? Have you ever felt about someone that you're trying to love or someone you're trying to connect to or get through to, and no matter how hard you try, they keep just closing you out, shutting you down, criticizing you, being mean and spiteful back to you? It's like, whoa, when Jesus said, love your enemies, he knew exactly what he was talking about. Because I could say, well, I do a pretty good job loving people, but there's some people. I mean, there are some people, God. Because right when we get into a peaceful time in our life, you know what happens? God sends another one of those clinkers into the gears of our life and tests our faith and tests our patience and tests our ability to express and to be Christ to the people who need him the most. I'm going to tell you something. I've discovered one thing about human beings in my life. It's a very simple phrase that I've come up with. Hurt people hurt people. You follow kind of what I'm saying here? People who are hurting, people who are suffering, people who are in agony, people who feel unloved, people who feel betrayed, people who feel angry, people who are afraid, people who feel all kinds of things. They just cannot be loving to other people. Not when they're overwhelmed and overcome by whatever it is their predicament or their situation is. And so in a strange and a kind of warped way, that old phrase, misery, what? Misery loves company. Why do you think some of those sayings are around? They've been around for several millennia. Why do you think they are? Because there's some truth to some of them, not all of them, but that's one that's true. People who are really miserable, they like to make other people miserable. I just ran to somebody, a checker. I do this with people in the store sometimes. I said, how's your day? And he said, well, it's not too bad. Not too bad. I said, I was waiting for him to say something else. He didn't. I think he stopped before he was going to say anything. He said, well, I shouldn't go into my personal issues with my customer here. But I could say, the thing I've discovered about complaining? He said, what's that? I said, you know what? Complaining only makes me feel worse and make you feel worse. So I've discovered, it doesn't accomplish anything at all. We just best to be hopeful and positive and do what we can. No, God would have packed up and gone back home. But because he is agape love, and this is the part that I still don't understand. And by the way, if I can just throw this out as a thought, the one place on the earth that I think we experience the closest to agape love, and it's not perfect, but it approaches it, is the love of a mother to a child. The mother to a child. I watched my daughter raise little Evelyn over the course of the last couple of years, and I discovered, wow, my daughter really can love pretty well. Because see, Evelyn didn't discover, she still hasn't discovered, really what it means to sleep on a schedule. And if you're around someone who doesn't sleep on a schedule, you don't sleep on a schedule either, necessarily. So her parents, God bless them, they have been sleep deprived for the last year and a half. Because little Evelyn just can't, they've tried every approach, every psychological perspective and concept and whatever. They've thrown all kinds of things at her. She is a smart little kid, and she just keeps them on their toes. The challenge is to really love with agape love. That's what God did. That's who he is. That's what he is all about. That's the kind of love, by the way, that needs to be at the foundation of a marriage. Would you agree, those of you who are married? Sure. Would my wife love me to love her and do everything to make her happy? Would she? Yeah, she would. But conversely, so Oh, here we go. Mick, you just slipped out of agape and you went into like phileo or maybe whatever. But I want her to make me happy, right? Oh, there you go. See, that's where relationships go, and not just marriages, but relationships can go south. When somebody says, I kind of like you because we're on a similar wavelength, we share common concerns, we love the same kinds of activities, things like that. But boy, that can be tenuous. Have you ever had someone who loved you turn their back on you? Have you ever had somebody turn around and just walk away? And you kind of go, what happened? What did I do? What did I say? And the relationship's done. And you go, and maybe you even apologize. You go, I'm sorry. If I did something, I'm not aware. If I've done something to hurt you, then I'm sorry. And they go, it doesn't make a difference. Why doesn't it make any difference? Because I'm done. I'm done. Man, that is the heart and soul of the struggles that we deal with in life. No, that's the kind of love that needs to be at the center. By the way, do I love my wife with erotic love? Sure I do. But agape love is the umbrella over all love. And it changes the motivation from wanting to be satisfied to please me, to make me feel good, to be more concerned about my wife in this case. And it takes erotic love and changes it from wanting to be satisfied with satisfying. Do you follow what I'm just saying? In other words, it's also, it takes that erotic love and it moves it up to a higher level called agape love. And it says, yes, it's nice for you to make me feel good, but that's not what is important. Most important is you. And do I love my wife with phileo love? Sure I do. But again, phileo is limited. It's more surfacey, and it can come and go. And like, again, it's more like if we're getting along, well, I'll hang out with you. If we're not getting along, then I'll find somebody else to be my friend. You see what I'm saying? So there's so much of that love in the world today, erotic love and phileo love, but it's not a solid love. But they're all overshadowed by agape love, which basically says, by the way, somebody asked my wife one day, and this is many, many years ago. This was early on in our marriage. They said, are you ever afraid that Mick will leave you? And I wasn't there privy to the conversation. She shared it with me later. She said to them, I'm not afraid he'll leave me. And they go, well, you're pretty confident. I mean, we were both young and, we were vibrant, a lot of energy and, whatever. I think both of us could have found another partner fairly easily, but she said no. And they said, why? She said, because he's committed to me. He's committed to me. When two people, for example, get married, do you know what they do? Do you know what's a part of the ceremony generally? Something called vows. I will do this, and I will do that, and I will do this. And then the baby's basically the promise. I will stay with you till what? Till death do us part, thank you. Or something like that. Even people who write their own vows, which that happens occasionally, still there is that part that's there. It's saying, I'm going to hang with you through. You see, that's what God is all about, and I'm almost finished. That's the basis of Christmas. That's the basis of Christ coming into this world for us. You see, here's the thing. When it says God is love, the only thing that he can do is love. That's what it means. He has no choice. He has no choice but to love you. You can be as ornery as you can be, and defiant, and even people who turn their back on him. God is constantly reaching people who don't believe in him, reject him, turn away from him. He keeps reaching out to them. Why? Because he wants to love them. That's the love that doesn't give up. Boy, I'm so glad that God hasn't given up on me. Aren't you? That God hasn't given up on you? See, because trust me, God knows us inside and out. He knows us better than we know ourselves. If you ever try to fool people, even people you're close to, you may be able to fool them for a while, but you know what? God sees through everything. He knows you, the essence of who you are. And here's the thing, and I think I'll kind of close with this. There's nothing that I will ever do that will make God love me more. I can put my best Sunday go to meeting face and put my best Sunday go to church clothes on. I can put my best foot forward. I can just really say, God, aren't I impressive? Aren't you really impressed with me? Aren't I a great, faithful father? And this was said in the Bible many times. Lord, am I not faithful to you? Have I not given you my life? Have I not, followed you through all those years? So there's a lot of that went on. And God appreciates the faithfulness and your devotion. By the way, coming to church or coming to church online and doing it regularly. I'm going to tell you something. Here's one thing your new pastor needs. Right now, I'll just tell you, come to church regularly. However you do that, online, in person. Come to church regularly. I won't dictate exactly what that means. I'll let your new pastor he'll probably have something to say about that one. But I'm just saying, because here's another saying, the more the what? The merrier. The more the merrier. And that does apply to church. The more people that we have here in worship. Do you know what my favorite Sunday is every year? Easter Sunday. Oh, absolutely. Not only, well, for various reasons, but one reason is there's more people in church on an Easter Sunday than any other Sunday of the year. Period. Christmas is a good one, but it's not always a Sunday, like Christmas Eve, whatever. But Easter morning, oh, wow. It's like you just kind of, you want to look forward to coming to church that day, and you got to go, Lord, help me do and be and say and not say what you don't want to say, so I can give you glory and honor and gratitude for your gift of eternal life through Jesus rising on that grave that first Easter. But you know what the worst Sunday of the year is for a pastor? I'm just sharing this with you. It's the Sunday after Easter. It's the Sunday after Easter. Yeah, because usually attendance goes, shoo, not always. And there have been a few Sundays through my years of ministry where God says, see, you thought you knew, and I surprised you, didn't I? Go, yes, God, you really surprised me in a wonderful way. 1 John 4:18 says, John cries out, he says, we love because what? He first loved us. Final question. Do you love him? And how do you love him? Lord, be with us as we continue our journey. Thank you that your love is unselfish, not self-serving. It is unconditional. Because there's nothing that we will ever do that will make you love us more, but it's also the end of that. There's nothing that we will ever do that will cause you to love us less. That's what perfect love is all about. Help us to put into practice more and more in our lives, every day, with other people that we come into contact with, your agape love. If we do, we will change the world and change people's lives by your power working through us. Amen.